Okay, so today we're going to talk about love transits in Vedic astrology. A lot of you were asking about it, and by the way, thanks for all your emails. I love reading your stories and how astrology changed your life. So thanks for all your emails. Keep it coming and subscribe to my channel. Okay, so love transits. What do they mean and how they happen? You may have many love transits actually in your or romantic transits. You may have many of them through life, and during those transits, people usually see you in the best light. They give you a benefit of doubt, and not necessarily you will meet the one, although your love life definitely will be uplifted during this time. But it's nearly impossible to say when exactly you will meet the one. Although this time in general is good for meeting somebody new, just it's good for socializing. It's good for recognition also, because let's say seventh house, it's also your your audience. So it's a great time for recognition and whatever it is. Seventh house also can be a business partner, so you may close some important deals. So love transits in general are also very good for money, because all these planets that make love transits, like Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, even Rahu, they're all also financial planets. So it's often a pretty good time for money as well. Although individual chart, of course, will tell what exactly it's gonna be. But the number one rule that I've seen through life, if you really wanna know when you're most likely going to meet that special person, because you may start some new relationship during a love transit, but not necessarily it's going to be the one. It doesn't mean you shouldn't be dating. You should. But what I've seen, when you do meet the one, and that's what happened to me, so the more love transits you have at the same time, the more likely it is that you will meet this special person, and or you may also get married during this time. So with the marriage, actually, we'll make a separate video about it. It's easier to say when you're actually gonna get married rather than when you're gonna meet the person, because I've seen people, I know a few couples who met in high school and got married, in their late 20s or even 30s. So not necessarily they were the whole time together. They could, some were together actually the whole time. They could live together, but they never got married until their 30s. So it could be a very long period of time when people are, between the time you meet somebody and then when you get married. So what are the transits that you should be looking for? And again, it's going to be a few of them usually when something special really happens. So for guys in general, transits to Venus going to be more important. For ladies, transits to Jupiter are going to be more important. So number one is a Jupiter transit. When Jupiter is going over your Venus or over your 7th house, or more aspecting 7th house, or it's going over the Lord of the 7th house, and then number two, it's the double transit of Jupiter and Saturn. So when both of them pointing to the 7th house, or to the Lord of the 7th house, or to your Venus, that's also a very special time. So for those who don't know how the double transit happens, I'll just give one example. Let's say Saturn is going over your Venus, so it's in the sign where your natal Venus is, and Jupiter is aspecting Venus, let's say with the 5th aspect, so they're both pointing to your Venus. And then transits of Venus, when Venus is going over your ascendant or ascendant Lord, or over 7th house, or over your Venus, or over your Jupiter, over Lord of the 7th house. Well, transits of Venus, they're brief, so about 3 weeks, but often I see they're gonna be like one of those few other transits. And then transits of Rahu also. Every time I met an important person, always Rahu was somehow involved, because Rahu is connected to our destiny. So in Rahu, it's, like it's a sudden event, it's initiation. So when Rahu is going, let's say, over your 5th house, or over your 7th house, even the 1st house, or Rahu return, let's say, that's what happened to me twice. So transits of Rahu also are going to be somehow involved. So I'll give my own example. So in case of Rahu, well, Rahu also is a ruler of my Venus nakshatra. So my Venus is in Swati nakshatra. So for me, Rahu is even more important because of this. And so all 3 times I had 2 brief marriages in my 20s. I have a delayed marriage in my chart, but I didn't know for a while, because I didn't study astrology that time. So I had 2 brief marriages in my 20s, and both times, I think first time I had a Rahu return when I met my first husband, and then the second husband, when I met him, Rahu was either in the 5th or 7th house, I can't remember. And then when I actually met the one, and by the way, I knew it when I did meet the one, I was like, I think 36. So I had a second Rahu return, and I will talk about, I'll make a separate video how to know if the person, if he or she is the one without even knowing astrology. Well, I'll make a separate video about it. So yeah, so third time I had a second Rahu return. So all 3 times Rahu was involved. And so speaking about that, I'm gonna give an example, my own example, when I actually did meet the one, the man who I was, supposed to be with. I just, I was impatient, so it was a kind of a long wait. So when it did happen, both of us had a few love transits at that time. So I had a Rahu return and I had a Jupiter return at the same time. And Jupiter is my Jupiter is my 7th lord. So I don't know if it will happen again or not when both Jupiter and Rahu were returning at the same time. So for those who don't know what return is, it means that return of the planet is when a planet returns by transit in the sign where where it was at your time of birth. So also the smaller transits, Venus was opposing my Jupiter, and even smaller one, Moon was in my 7th house from the Moon. So that's what I had. And then he had a double transit of Jupiter and Saturn, both pointing to his Venus. And Jupiter also is a lord of his 7th house as well. And then Venus was going over his Jupiter, and Rahu was going over his ascendant. And by the way, both of us also had Navamsha charts activated at that time. But so Navamsha also will often get activated. I had, for example, Saturn was going over ascendant sign of my Navamsha, and Venus was going over my Rahu in Navamsha, and he had a Venus return in Navamsha, and I can't remember, there was something else. So yeah, Navamsha will also often gets activated, but you will see everything you need to know in your D1 chart. So that's my own example, and I hope that was helpful. Subscribe to my channel and push the like button if you like this video, and I'm looking forward to all of your emails, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.